Wow, okay, you're going to stick with me here. It's been a long day. We've heard a lot. Great thinking. I've enjoyed this day so much, quite honestly. It stimulates me to hear our speakers and the great thoughts that have been shared. I want to thank the University of Delaware, the National Association of Realtors. I particularly enjoy the On Common Ground book, and there was a cover story that featured one of our communities, I think in this past year, and the state of Delaware for hosting this housing summit. This is important work. This is not quick work, but these are important steps to be taken to build great communities, and I know all of you are engaged in that. And like you, I really help support the effort. So, a few things. I'm not an architect. I'm not an urban planner. I am not an interior designer. I am a real estate developer. I do residential development work. I'm a general contractor. I build homes and I sell homes. And so we are also a licensed real estate firm in the state of Washington. And so I am on the tail end of all the great work that has gone on before in the state of Washington that put the pieces of policy, of code writing, of placemaking, of form development in place so that I, as a market rate business person, can take advantage of the opportunity to create great places. And so that is the work that I do. And I am very fortunate and very happy to say that our work has been recognized nationally. And now the steps that were taken early on in the state of Washington have translated to other parts of the country, such as Delaware, in this conversation that we're having today. And I very much appreciate that. If there's one thing I want to leave you with today, the power of a built example. The power of a built example. There is nothing that can replicate the experience of walking into something that you have never experienced before and be able to feel, touch, experience the form and the place. And I think if there is one thing that our communities do, they serve to create that opportunity to experience something somewhat different. We began because we started to feel, now again, this is the late 90s, so we've been at this work now about 15 years. We began to really experience, and perhaps it's because, you know, it's our age, a shift in demographics, the boomer population aging, seeking to resize out of a bigger house, bigger lot, higher maintenance, and get closer to urban amenities. And I don't mean downtown, I mean a walkable bistro, a coffee shop, a community center, the Y, and all of the healthcare facilities, all of those community amenities that we require in our lives, but within a walkable situation. I think that we also began to think about the impacts of climate change and realize that a sustainable car-driven suburban model isn't supportive of a positive impact, and that the market demanded more housing choice and higher quality choices. But last but not least, and I want to stress this because as I speak to people from across the country, in the state of Washington, 25 years ago, we implemented as a policy decision the Growth Management Act. What that act said was, we will not sprawl. New development will happen within prescribed boundaries. We will protect the wilderness areas in our state. We will protect agricultural land, critical for growing food to support our communities. And as a side note, we have a healthy, vibrant farmers market network of local farmers who probably were able to save the family farm because of this economic opportunity. But we will not sprawl and build housing tracts out into that wilderness and agricultural area. That was a policy decision 25 years ago, and as a result, cities and counties within the state of Washington are mandated to meet housing targets, to find innovative ways. We're not going to keep putting roads and sewer systems out into the wilderness and agricultural areas. This is different than other states in the United States, but it has caused things to happen in the state of Washington that now can be used as great examples for others struggling with similar challenges. But again, back to the power of the build example, I want to just briefly take you through an example of the case study of the Pine Street cottages. Anyone familiar with the Pine Street cottages as a story? The Pine Street cottages were built in the city of Seattle, about 1.5 miles east of downtown Seattle in 1916. They had fallen into incredible disrepair. 10 worker houses, 400 square feet each, clustered around a garden courtyard like the old bungalow courts in that model. But as you can see, they, in the late 80s, early 90s, were pretty bad. A lot of people would have torn them down, built new houses, but instead a developer made the decision to renovate them, condominiumize them, and resell them instead. And so that's what they did. Here's the site plan. They didn't enlarge, they just made new. And they became this. Now, what happened? This renovation attracted national attention. It was on Good Morning America. It was featured in Metropolitan Home. The homes sold instantly for a whole lot of money, $85,000 in 1991 each. They're reselling at about $300,000 today. That is a 400 square foot single level home with a loft bedroom that you went up a ladder to get to. It took the conventional real estate development mindset sort of, on its ear. It put it on its ear. And folks started thinking about, now again, remember the context of the Growth Management Act. City planners started thinking, well, hey, wait a minute. Why is this possible? Well, it was grandfathered in, right? It had been built before zoning, but you couldn't build it today because we didn't have the land use codes. What's wrong with that picture? Because clearly there's a market for this. So the city of Seattle got busy and wrote a code. It was a form-based type code. They didn't call it a form-based code, but that's what it was. Prescriptive in terms of how big the footprint could be, how tall the buildings, etc. And we're all ready to adopt it. And then the neighborhoods got a little scared about it all. And they said, no, we don't really want, oh boy, that's scary. I don't know, 400, in a single family neighborhood. Of course, this neighborhood was surrounded by established, built in the 30s and the 20s, 5,000 square foot lots, single family homes. But nevertheless, they got nervous. The city of Seattle never enacted this. However, the city of Langley, Washington on Whidbey Island did. Now Langley, for anybody familiar with Langley, Washington on Whidbey Island, a little village of 1,100 people that was concerned with protecting the historic character of their place. They didn't want to be overrun with McMansions. This is a community that's a very seasonal community. It's beautiful, a lot of second homes, wealthy people from Seattle. It's about an hour and a half north of downtown Seattle. They were concerned about that, and so they enabled a code that would encourage smaller new homes to be built. We built the 3rd Street cottages in 1998. Were it not for that code, we could not have done this. So again, the power of the built example of Pine Street cottages enabled a code that enabled other cities. And so as a result, 3rd Street cottages is probably the first new bungalow court, hence to be called cottage community, built in the United States, post-World War II. Now, 3rd Street cottages caught on in its own sense and was published nationally and still is published frequently in a variety of national publications. And we're happy for that level of attention. I've come to think about cottage housing really as innovative housing because it includes a variety of housing types, and that's what I want to bring the conversation from cottage housing to what my colleague Dan Perelik in Berkeley has really coined the phrase the missing middle. And courtyard housing, cottage housing, bungalow courts, and a variety of other examples of single-family housing that was built in all of our communities before World War II is perhaps a real opportunity for this market demand for walkable, smaller scale, smaller footprint housing, I think across the United States. It certainly is in my region where I live in Western Washington. So I have moved from cottage housing and really thought about innovative housing because it is more inclusive. Location is incredibly critical. The first question my buyers ask me, what can I walk to? What can I walk to? And they don't mean taco time on a strip mall someplace. You know, they have in mind the bookstore. In fact, we have a little joke. When we're looking for property for new developments, we look for the 3 Bs. A great bakery, a bookstore, hopefully, you know, locally owned, and a brew pub, hopefully brewing locally grown grains and beer. But nevertheless, the 3 Bs. If you have the 3 Bs within walking distance, that's a winner. And we'll take a look at that. But cottage housing, also coined as pocket neighborhoods, is really one of only several tools in a toolkit. It is not a silver bullet. It should not be considered a silver bullet to solve everyone's housing problems. It addresses a really particular need and has several applications. But there are more tools in the toolkit, and we need to talk a little bit about those. Subsequent projects that people may be familiar with, Conover Commons, cottages, 12 cottages clustered around a beautiful garden courtyard. This was allowed and encouraged through a land use code put forth by the city of Redmond. I also have great fortune to be working with some of the most innovative cities in the nation, I think. Entrepreneurial, innovative, interesting in creating great places and putting the codes in place that allow that to happen. 12 2-bedroom, 1,000 square foot homes that surround a beautiful green. It's 5 miles from Microsoft World Headquarters, and there's a bus stop right out front. You can get on the bus, go to Trader Joe's, buy your groceries, come home, not have to drive. Walking trail network extensive throughout the area. Danielson Grove, City of Kirkland, is probably one of the best models in the country in terms of innovation and conditional use codes. 16-home community, 2- and 3-bedroom homes, size limited to 1,500 square feet, that surround on about a 2¼ acre parcel that surround, again, a beautiful common green. But back to the missing middle, I just want to show some images to you and see if you recognize any of these kinds of structures in your communities, because I know they're there. Think about your neighborhoods that were built before World War II. Think about the idea of a mansion apartment with 4 or 6 units, a duplex, a fourplex, bungalow courts of all size and configuration. Some are attached, some are detached. They all fit the bill for this missing middle housing typology. In most communities, they're all illegal. You cannot build them by law. And so it's these innovative thinking about land use codes that we really need to consider. A duplex. This is a duplex. It looks like a large single-family home. It's a duplex. Not legal. In my neighborhood, where I live, in the city of Seattle, unless it's grandfathered in because it was built, 70 years ago. Bungalow courts. This happens to be attached, but there's a lot of good detached examples. beautiful California version, but there are versions of this housing type in every design vernacular across the country. Fourplexes, sixplexes, again, commonplace in single-family neighborhoods, not legal today. But could it be a housing solution? Could it be one of the tools in the toolkit? Mansion apartments, small apartment buildings, again, single-family neighborhoods, pre-war. The missing middle happens in New Orleans and in Duluth. It's everywhere across the United States, and there is opportunity for us to consider it. It's not a new idea. These ideas, I wish I had some thing I could patent and say, hey, I can bottle this and sell it, I've got the next great thing for housing. But the reality is these historical precedents may hold the solution for the needs that we have going forward, and I think that's a really important takeaway for you today. I would also mention that we discussed this, understanding market demand on this. This housing type doesn't go just anywhere. I get these calls, we talked, someone earlier was talking about location and how critical location is for all of this type of new development. I get calls from, last week, a landowner, 5 acres, 5 miles out of town, farmland all around. He'd like to develop a community such as we have done. Well, you know, I don't know that that's not the right place. But not if you answer the first question, what can I walk to? What can I walk to? So a walkable context, a single family experience. These solutions don't feel multifamily, they don't feel institutional. It's not a condo where you're sharing walls, it's not an underground parking garage. It's a single family residential experience, and that's very key. These are small footprint homes. I operate in the development here of these images with incentives for size limited homes. Now what does that mean? Is this a rezone? No. The zoning for the properties that we've developed has not changed. It remains the same. There's no rezone in place. However, what the jurisdiction has implemented is a conditional use code. Conditional use code, either or. If you'd like to develop that property as 4 houses, which is the underlying zone, fine, no problem. If you'd like to build 8 size limited homes there instead, that can't exceed 1,500 square feet each, that's another option. You choose. Nothing has changed in terms of the rezoning. These are modestly sized homes, but they are luxurious by design. The parking doesn't drive the site plan. Cars are not the first consideration here. We have to deal with cars, but they're not the first consideration. The construction is simple. The end result serves to support and create human connection and community. And so I think there's a call to all of you in this room and the architects, planners, and developers across the country to really start to think outside the box about what really is out there in terms of market demand and how can we create solutions that respond to that. So what can we do about it? Demonstration codes, integrating a form-based zone, building type, or codes to preserve the historic character of an existing neighborhood, which is the roots of where a lot of form-based coding work really began, is historic preservation, or write your own cottage code or innovative code that serves to prescribe the end result that you're looking for. And then again, understanding how location is really paramount to these housing types. This is a simple graphic that I like to show people to really think about where does this missing middle fit in to the equation. And a couple of the speakers earlier today brought up the transect graphics, which I'm grateful for because that helps simplify what I'm doing. This is a very simple transect. So on the right-hand side, we have higher density mixed-use residential. This could even be a downtown 3 or 4-story mixed-use development pattern. And at the far left-hand side, we have larger lot, larger home, single family. So the middle is this medium density, missing middle housing choice. So row houses, small lot, single family, cottages, courtyard homes that are attached, lots of options. It goes in the middle. From a site planning perspective, on the left is a busy state highway with commercial and mixed-use functions on that busy highway. Behind it, the missing middle, if you will, small lot, and that transition zone, and then to the right-hand side, the single-family, typical large lot. Our Greenwood Avenue Cottages community that was built in the city of Shoreline demonstrated 8 1,000 square foot homes on a property that was probably 2/3 of an acre that would have been 4 large lots. But under the conditional use code put in place by the city of Shoreline, we were able to build 8 size limited 1,000 square feet 2-bedroom homes. So there's a site plan. But I think, and just to explain this a little bit, on the far left-hand side of the image is the public street. And then there was a narrow private drive that went between 2 existing single-family homes on larger lots. So right down the middle. And on the right-hand end of the property, which was the backyard of the 2 single-family homes, we clustered 8 small cottages and garages. Thinking about a typical suburban lot development, this one with an alley on the right, you can see the differences in the lot configurations between conventional single family and what a cottage cluster might look like on the left. But I think as important, again, back to the Greenwood example, on the left-hand side, the 4 large lots. On the left-hand side, the 4 large lots. The right-hand side, the 8 smaller homes. But on the bottom, look at the difference in height and bulk between the 4 large homes, 35 feet tall, and the 8 smaller cottages with a maximum of 24 feet at the ridge. So when you think of form, height, bulk, scale issues, the impact of a large 3,000 square foot, 35 foot tall home in infill development within existing single family can be pretty dramatic. And the end result at Greenwood Cottages. Rich interior details. This is not cheap housing. This is luxurious housing, a jewel box, if you will, with paneling, lighting, lots of rich interior millwork, trim, details, vaulted spaces, skylights, front Dutch doors, real wood floors, things that you don't often find in new home construction today. Our most recent project, Chico Beach Cottages, is 7 homes on a waterfront acre of property in a neighborhood with $1 million McMansions flanking all sides. We just finished and sold out this project. This is a very interesting thing. The aerial, you can see on the top of the site plan, you can see 2 of the large McMansions that on the north side of the property sold recently, actually, one of them for $1 million. And the 7 cottages that cluster on that same 150 feet of waterfront that averaged about $450,000 each. 7 owners sharing that wonderful $1 million waterfront amenity. The landscaping hadn't grown up yet when we took these pictures, so it's a little bare, but you can see there's a wonderful view of Mount Rainier from the property, and you can get a feeling of the community, the courtyard. We cited all of these homes for great views. And of course the beach. Commons building, I haven't really spoken too much about that, but in all the communities that we develop, we include a commons building, a place for the community to gather or for an individual to own or to use as they might wish. A party, potluck, yoga night, a work group meeting, poker, the Super Bowl. When you live in a smaller square footage, sometimes you need that extra space. Not all the time, not every day, but now and then, and it's there and available for each owner, one of the community amenities. The interiors are finished to a high level of design and quality. Kitchens with painted cabinetry. And did I mention these are built Green 4-star and Energy Star certified? These homes will not use more than $1,200 a year in energy. And could be net zero with the addition of photovoltaics on the roof. And no one has done it. It was an option, no one's done it yet, but I think that all things being considered, that may be well an option. Net zero is really possible in new residential construction, and there's not a lot of extra cost involved. Just need to think and plan. I wanted to include an average project pro forma. Are there any developers in the room? So many times I get comments from people about, I don't know how you can do that because I can't make a project like that pencil. It just doesn't pencil. And so I included a project pro forma. And the other question that people ask is, oh my gosh, your houses are so expensive. We could never do anything like that. Well, 2 things. One, land in the West Coast is very expensive. This property, the raw land, was $1.4 million to build 16 homes. Just the dirt. So if you were to back that out of your calculation and apply a current land price of wherever you happen to live, which is significantly less, I'm sure, than obviously the end result of the home. These homes averaged about $550,000. Now, in the neighborhood, other developers were building 3,000 square foot, conventional, suburban, 7,200 square foot lot single homes and selling them for about $900,000. So, yes, we were less expensive. Was it affordable, capital A? No, but it is relatively more affordable than the other single-family option being presented in the neighborhood by other developers. But the other large cost that we have in all of our construction is the site development cost. We're in a region where stormwater mitigation is required. We live with many, many endangered species, a whole lot of salmon and a lot more. And so water quality and habitat denigration is very, very important, and stormwater has to be controlled. My site development costs on this project were about $900,000. A lot of that directed towards mitigation, detention, retention, infiltration, and treatment of stormwater. So that is another thing that adds cost that may not be the case in other places. My vertical cost of construction just sticks in the air. The house itself ranges from 110 on my most recent project to about 140 something a square foot. And we in Washington have the highest prevailing wage in the United States. Our minimum wage is something like $9.68, something like that. It's the highest in the nation. And so we live with high labor cost, and we live with high land costs, but the actual vertical cost of construction may not be as high, and so as we think about this model in other places, we can recalculate the numbers. Again, our Chico project, it's a beautiful site. Who buys our homes? People ask me that all the time. After they ask, what can I walk to? I'll tell you, 50% of our buyers are single women. 50. They range in age from 30 to 83. And they're in all sorts of places in their lives. They are single by choice because they have not yet married and they're focused on their careers and they've delayed having children, that millennial group that we talked about. They have been widowed, divorced, never married, professionals, and single women. It's a big segment. Empty nester couples would be the other prevailing group of people seeking to reside. Kids are grown and gone. Don't want the expense of maintaining big house, big property, all the work. And as a lot of guys have said to me, you know, I'm just tired of mowing every weekend. I'm tired of walking around with a screwdriver in my back pocket every waking moment that I have when I'm not at work. I'm done with that. And I want a different sort of life, one that I have more freedom. One that I have the chance to travel, go kayaking and hiking on the weekend, other things. So it's a lifestyle choice, and also one that's a choice to be connected to other like-minded people in a community. Most people have only one car, many use transit or they bike or hike. They have a sophisticated taste level. They drive nice cars. They've traveled the world. They value nice things. They are not about giving up or sacrifice, but they're selective about what those things might be. To the neighborhood, we present a lot of benefits in terms of the communities we build and have developed are residential in character. They complement the existing single family. They result in higher property values all around and bring more housing choice to already built neighborhoods. This is our Danielson Grove community in Kirkland. Chico Beach. And with that, I just want to say thank you to all the cities that have really been pioneering, have worked hard to create innovative housing choices in Western Washington and in their communities. Their commitment to making their community a great place can really be commended, and we can all learn from their examples. They are very generous with their time and experiences. I also want to just mention the Form-Based Code Institute that's been supportive of some of the innovative codes that we have worked with, as well as Dan Paralek, who I mentioned before, and his firm Opticos Design, which is another great resource for many of these housing choices. And with that, I hope folks have questions, and because that's all I prepared. And thank you so much for hanging in there for for the whole day. And that's it.